this is the Greystone Kingsbridge IR35 portal. First of all, I'm just going to run through a quick role-based assessment. So this is really useful if you have a contractor or more than one contractor working in the same role. You're able to do an initial role-based assessment and then apply that to multiple contractors. So we will just start with an example. Let's stick in a project manager, as that tends to be fairly popular. Put in the duration of the contract, so we'll stick it in for a year, and we can put the day rate in, let's just say 350. We click save, and we are then prompted to go through questions. They're split into key areas of the legislation that Ryan's already covered off, so personal service control and substitution. But what I would do is I'll read through each question out, and then I'll just zigzag through, answer no, yes, no, to just give you an indication and not go into too much detail for the purposes of this. So first of all, is the consultant an office holder of the end client? Has the contract, including extensions, already started? And has the limited company been working for the client for more than 6 months? We then move on to personal service, so substitution. So is the consultant named specifically on the contract? Does the limited company have the ability to subcontract part or all of the work to a third party? And in the event of incompetence, unsuitability, or unprofessional conduct, would the limited company be expected to provide a replacement alternate consultant? Does the contract contain the right to provide a replacement as substitute? Does the substitute have to be approved by the client? Would any substitute be sourced and paid for by the limited company? Is it likely the client would accept the limited company sending a substitute if they were unable to work? And has the right of substitution ever been exercised with the client, even with other limited company representatives working identically to the consultant? So we then move on to end client control, which is another one of the trinity that Ryan mentioned. So does the contract state that the limited company consultant or replacement worker must work a minimum number of hours per week? If the consultant is to be absent, does this have to be approved? Is the work managed by anyone inside the client's business? Is the limited company responsible for the success or failure of deliverables they're working on? Does the limited company specify the work to be done within the project? And do any permanent employees inside the client's business have the same skills as the consultant? We then move on to part and parcel and business and own accounts, so some of the lesser areas of the legislation that Ryan mentioned. So does the consultant manage any of the client's employees? Does the limited company incur any out-of-pocket expenses which are not reimbursed by the client? And then finally, neutrality of obligation. So this is, again, one of the key trinity, but it's the one that Seth kind of glosses over. So this definitely one of the key differences between the Seth portal and this one is the covering of neutrality of obligation. So is the limited company's fee based on an hourly or daily rate? Is the limited company paid when the consultant is unable to work due to sickness or holiday? Does the contract contain a notice period? Does the contract relate to a particular project? Does the contract terminate immediately if the project ends? Can the consultant be required to work on anything outside of the named project without the limited company's specific agreement? If there was no work to do, would the client be obligated to pay the limited company? And can the limited company refuse to carry out any task not specifically named in the contract? So we can submit those answers for the information we've sort of zigzagged through and inputted, and you will then get an overall determination. This project manager role is outside of IR35. That's the potential tax liability. So that's obviously where the insurance comes in, and why people are scared and pushing people in away from limited companies will be that figure, but it can be more than comfortably insured. And then also you get a report which you can click in and have a look at what's having a positive or negative impact on IR35 status to really help. And that's where Ryan and the team come in as well, that they can discuss and consult on some of the weaknesses to make sure that it can be improved compliantly to get contractors working compliantly outside of IR35. If we click back into here, we can then link this to a contractor. So again, here's one I made earlier. We can click into our contractor, Rob, click a new assessment, and apply the role that we have done. We can answer the further questions for the contractor ourselves, and at this point you can see you can add a sign-off user, so the client can run through everything yourselves, make sure you're happy with it, and make sure that the reasonable care hurdle Ryan discussed is met. We'll get a few more questions which are specific to the contractor. So is it the limited company contractor's first contract? They can also be sent these separately, but for the purposes of today, we'll just run through this way. Other than the name consultant, has the limited company hired additional employees to help complete the work? And again, you can add notes and evidence at this point. So if anything is of particular interest, for a clear audit trail for HMRC, you can note and clearly see the audit trail there. We'll click through again. Will most of the work on assignment be completed at the client's premises? Does the limited company carry out some or all the work from a premise of their choice? Did the client interview the consultant? Does the consultant use their own equipment? Is the limited company responsible for correcting faulty work at their own cost? Does the limited company hold business insurance such as PI? I know Phil and Greystone are hot on that, so I'll put yes there. Is the limited company restricted from working with other clients at the same time? Does the limited company carry out work for any other client at the same time? And does the limited company have its own website or marketing material? Integration, which Ryan touched on as being quite key. So this depends completely how that limited company is integrated with the business. So does the consultant have an ID pass for access to the client's building that is the same as permanent employees? Is the consultant presented to customers of the client as being part of the client's business? And is the consultant integrated into the structure of the client that they attend meetings, briefings, and other gatherings? So we finish off those questions and then we send it to our client for sign off. So this is obviously where the importance is for you. I'll remove this. There you go. So we come into here now, and this is the portal that you will have. So you have complete control over the process as well. You get a portal. You can see here a progress tab as to exactly what is going on. And you can click into Rob, who we've just done our assessment for. And as you can see, we are now a reviewer of the assessment. So we can fly through, make sure we are happy with everything, add a comment if we're not. This is incorrect. So there's a clear audit trail on us coming to the right decision as passing that reasonable care hurdle. Not going to say, can we discuss? But you can really see here a clear audit trail. But if we're happy with everything, we click finalize, and we then have our completed SDS. So if we click into the SDS, again, you can see it's been assessed by Simon, who's our client for the purposes of this, outside of IR35, and all the reasons listed. So all of the obligations that Ryan mentioned you have as the client can be covered off through the tool. And then also, even if the contractor, we can send the contractor the SDS as well through the portal. And even if they open a dispute, we can manage that all through the portal. So all of the obligations you have can be managed. So if I come back onto the screen now, once we've got our outside of IR35 SDS, then the importance of the insurance comes into place. And the insurance policy that Kingsbridge provide is underwritten by Zurich, so a worldwide underwriter insurer. It covers 100K worth of legal defense costs and 100K worth of tax liability as well, which is the joint most on the market. It covers whichever party is left liable by the legislation, so it covers the whole supply chain. And there are a few really poignant points to make on the insurance. So the first one is the extended reporting period. So it's got a 4-year extended reporting period. So after the first year of cover, if HMRC come knocking up to 4 years after that point in the future, the insurance would still respond. And the most important thing is what's called a prospective success clause, which you'll be surprised to hear is a very cheeky get out of jail free card that insurers tend to put in policies of this nature. And it basically says if we've not got a 51+% chance of winning the case in a court of law, the insurance doesn't pay out. Now, Kingsbridge have been able to get that insurance met on our policy. And the reason we've been able to do so, we acquired an IR35 consultancy, which Ryan is a part of, and that's headed up by a chap called Andy Vesey. So if you want to give him a Google, his name's on the screen there, Vessey is his surname. He's a bit of an IR35 legend, if you can use those two terms together. He's defended more cases successfully against the revenue than anybody else out there. And because of sort of his strength and knowledge in the market and the strength of the tool, we've been able to get that prospect of success clause met by Zurich. So if we go back onto these points, if you have a solution where you use the kind of Kingsbridge Greystone portal, and you're then able to insure with the IR35 Protect policy, it means that you can assess status fairly. You can get expert support from Ryan and the team if needed. So there's a lot of hand-holding that goes on. And if you've got questions about each area of the legislation, Greystone and Kingsbridge can support. and you can ensure that risk as well, to mean that you can compliantly maintain access to the best talent, the best contractors, not have delays to projects, remove that tax liability from the supply chain, and save on unnecessary costs.